really know how Teth's gonna feel knowing that he's been tucked away in a packaging this long. Here's a look at McFarlane Toys DC Direct Page Puncher's Black Adam comic, Black Adam. Centuries ago, the same wizard that granted Billy Batson the powers of Shazam bestowed mystical powers upon a pure-of-heart youth in ancient Egypt. But when the boy tried to share his power to save the dying uncle, his uncle stole it and became the legendary supervillain known as Black Adam. I guess it's not really a gift if you have to steal it for yourself. I'm also looking at producer Tony while I'm saying this because I can't help but notice he's stolen my sandwich. No. Take another bite. Take another bite. Let's take the tape measure, though, shall we, and see how tall the Page Puncher's Black Adam stands. I know, again, it's been an older figure. It's been locked away with all my other kind of figures that I've kind of had the idea, do I really want to get around to opening these up, or am I fine just to kind of keep and content to keep them still in their plastic prison? You know, it kind of dawned on me also as well that as we're getting near the end of the lineage of the DC Multiverse line and what Todd and team had been doing so well for the last couple of years, there's only so many figures that they can get out before the license runs out. That kind of caused me then to open up to John Constantine with the idea really in mind. Will we ever really get another Constantine? I started kind of feel the same way when it comes to Black Adam. And there has been, again, a couple of Black Adams that have been released, especially if you like to follow Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. We know how well that worked out. But before we kind of talk about things, let's do this thing. We're going to take the tape measure and see how tall the Page Puncher's Black Adam stands. The answer to that question, by the way, is 7 inches in height, working out to be a figure that's about 17.5 centimeters tall. I don't think you'd have to switch to a second hand to count just how many Black Adam figures we've got from McFarlane Toys. The ones that come to my mind, obviously, are the movie tie-in ones that feature The Rock very predominantly. If you like the look of The Rock and would like to have him in different versions of Black Adam, there was a cloaked and a non-cloaked version. I think there was also a gold label collection of him as well. If you like, though, a comic version of Black Adam, then your best option is either getting the Page Puncher's one here, or there is also the Endless Winter Black Adam. A figure I never really picked up. A figure, though, I happen to have the same body of with Captain Marvel's here. Essentially, just kind of look at Black Adam. He would be a black-clad version of this figure right here. While we're also talking about Captain Marvel, I also happen to bring in this one as well. This one was cool because it did have more of a classic Golden Age look to his face. He also had a real fabric cape too. I'll be sure not to make the mistake of saying that Black Adam does come included with the display stand. When we looked at John Constantine earlier this week, I failed to mention that the figure came included with that stand. The stand, by the way, is just basically your traditional circular black bit of plastic with the DC logo branded right dead center in the middle. In walking distance from that, if you had tiny little legs, there's a peg right there that can plug into either one of Black Adam's boots. Hold on to this for dear life. This figure has an incredible time trying to even stand. I'm surprised even just by miracle alone that he's standing the way that he is. I'm saying it now, though, because the figure may take a fall. That would be the perfect cue for him just to fall right over. The figure does also come included with a comic. Now, this is the same comic that came included with this Batman, with a Superman now looking at it that looks a lot like Liam Neeson. Liam Neeson Superman, front and center. Had already looked at these figures, and then just recently we also looked at John Constantine. Sort of Constantine was the catalyst, I guess, if you want to look at it this way. The reasoning why we're looking now at Black Adam. Now I can at least say, years later, I have looked at the 3 figures, Liam Neeson's Superman featured on the front, and now we can finally say we've looked at Black Adam. Quickly flipping through the comic, just to show you what the illustration looks like inside. One thing, though, that they've done is they've designed all the characters to look like their figure counterparts. So, like Black Adam, for example, you'll see that he does have the tattered cape and the gold shoulders on his arms. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time, obviously. Oh, I like this image right here. That's a really cool image, and it really does showcase how big of a beast Black Adam actually is. I don't really know who I would have cast as Black Adam in the films. I know certainly, though, it wouldn't have been Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Come on. Let's move that off to the side, though. If you like the look of that comic, you'll also see it as well with the card. This was the same card as John Constantine, so how boring is this? If you have these sitting inside your trading card sheets, I mean, just to flip through the page, you'd be thinking, do I have a duplicate? You don't. You do from the front, you don't from the back. The back does show, actually, Black Adam on the top corner, whereas John Constantine also was featured on the top corner as well. I just don't like this. I really wish, though, that, I mean, saying this now after the fact, years later, I would have really rather had the Black Adam featured and John Constantine featured instead of a comic I already have an image for. But let's move those to the side. Okay, so for the accessories that come included with this version of Adam, the figure does have these electricity effects. I don't mind these. I mean, if you want to throw things like this in for figures accessories, often at times I generally prefer these a lot more than hands. The hands themselves, by the way, he already has a gestured hand on one side and a closed fist on the other. The effect pieces are actually different from one another, so, you know, if to look at one and then see the other, I don't think, no, looking at them, they're not exactly the same. By now, I'm sure you've seen enough of these to know that they're using translucent yellow plastic. There's a little bit of give to it. It's kind of more of a, I don't want to say like a gummy plastic, but it's kind of a cross between a gummy plastic and a more rigid kind of plastic material. These, by the way, though, as you can see, serpently spin on the top. So what you do is basically just take yourself your figure, I keep saying basically while you're doing it, and wrap it around his arms. I'm sure, though, you'll have much more success doing it than what I'm doing it right now. It's just because everybody's looking at me. Stop looking at me, please. Everybody kind of look over there. Okay, good. They're looking away. What you basically just do, though, is you fit that on his arms, and you do this on this side as well. Again, I struggle because everybody I know is looking at me right now. There we go. Basically just wrap them around his arms. I mean, you probably could get a better look than I've got right now, but it does the job, and it does the job. I feel fairly well. Psst. Removing those, let's put them off to the side. They'll, I'm sure, come back for the final looks of the figure. And getting a closer look at Black Adam. If you really want a Black Adam from the comics, I think this is the closest one that we have. Again, there is the Endless Winter release of him that doesn't have the shoulder pads, doesn't have the cape, but I don't think it has as good of a head as what we're getting here. This comes from a guy, of course, saying that years later. The head sculpt, I think, is pretty good. He seems a little muddier on the complexion of the paint. Outside of that, though, I think it's one of the better looking Black Adam faces that we have. Again, with only counting on one hand. I mean, how many of these figures we've actually gotten? Now, you don't maybe like the look necessarily of the shoulder pads. I would think, though, there's probably a way to remove the shoulders, because what they are is they're attached on the top here. If you were to cut these off, not that I'm not saying that I would, if you were to cut these off, you'd never really know that they were there in the first place. The cape would be a harder thing to pull off because, again, like pulling it off, it's plugged onto the big back of the figure's torso, and obviously would just leave a garish hole. This would also be something that's connected directly to his lightning bolt on the front, so I don't think taking the cape off would really be an option. The gold works really generally quite well with the figure. I don't think it necessarily takes away from what this should look like as a Black Adam character. I like the lightning bolt. I think that's done well. That was actually something else I didn't like about the Endless Winter Black Adam, was that he had a very chunky outline around the lightning bolt. I prefer really to have the lightning bolt a little bit more refined, where you can see the trim around that is kind of more, I would say, like a caramel beige. That's a good way of describing something, humbled reviewer. He also has the gold down below here in his trunks, some gold nicely done here on his gauntlets on his arms. Even like really the sculpting that they did to his torso. For an older figure, I think they've done a nice enough job, really. It isn't really quite black either. It almost does seem like there's, and it could be really just the way that the light's hitting it, almost like it's got a little bit of a purplish tint to the black. It could very well just also be my eyes. Oh, my eyes. One issue I do have with the figure isn't necessarily the fact he does have the cape on the back. Now, the cape is a soft enough plastic. It's got some rips and tears and holes in it, so it looks like it's torn and it's tattered. My big real issue with the figure comes down below in his boots. There are two real things that I find problematic, wrong with this. First of all, the obvious one is the fact that they painted the boots, they painted the top of the boots, and yet meeting in the middle, unfortunately, this area of black peg couldn't have been used at least with gold plastic or even gone in there and painted. Painted probably would have been a harder thing because moving this back and forth likely would have flaked the paint off. But I really feel like at the very least, even if it didn't match, it matched a lot better than going with black. Gold, I think, would have worked. Maybe they didn't want to use gold with a weird... I mean, I think we kind of by now have gone past the gold plastic syndrome. That was a real problem facing gold plastic figures back in the day. Around like that late 90s, early 2000s. If you had gold figures back then, a lot of times they would crack, they would split. I think you could easily now, we're well later into the 2000s, you could easily use gold plastic, and I don't think you'd have a risk of breaking anything or the plastic being inferior. I just don't like that it's separated like this. I would have to really go back and look at the comic again. Let's just put him down here for a second. The other problem is something I'm going to be talking about. It has a lot to do with what he's doing right now. Let's see if we can find ourselves an image of Black Adam where he's got his boots. I just want to see. I don't want to be the guy that says, well, he shouldn't really have had a black space. No, right there. Right there. Yeah. It's all gold, guys. It's all gold. That's a good, like a nice illustration of Black Adam. So again, like I feel like the gold should have been there. Having it not there draws more attention to the fact it's wrong. What's also wrong, unfortunately, though, is the way that the ankles work. This is something that happens ever so often when it comes to DC figures, is that they're unratcheted joints. So they work in a way where they click here, here, and here. Do you think anywhere in between those three would be a good place to have the figure standing? Unfortunately, when you have it in this way, the figure always falls backwards. Don't worry, I got you, buddy. If you have it too far forward this way, then the figure leans forward. You almost kind of really want to have it where it's in between this and in between this. Somewhere in between there would be the best place to stand the figure, and yet you can't. It's frustrating. You can't get it to the point where it's balancing enough. This Black Adam falls frequently. So that's why I was saying earlier, hold on to these for dear life. Don't let it go, unless you have like 300 of them over here. Definitely plug these onto the display stands, because then you're not going to have any issues with Black Adam taking a tumble. For the figure's articulation, Black Adam is on a ball joint. Head-wise, at least it is. Head's going to rotate all the way around. At least there's enough space clearance around his cape, where rotating the head doesn't seem to be a problem. Head's going to look down, quite low in fact. He's actually looking at how much problems he's having standing, and the head can look up. Figure doesn't really have a flight stand, as mentioned, or well, I showed you guys all the things he has at the beginning of this review. A flight stand would be a good thing to display with this figure. I'm probably going to be making use of one that's right over here. His arms do rotate. Not the easiest though, but at least the shoulders being attached up here, not here, you could still pull off successfully a full arm rotation. The arms hinge out at 90 degrees. You can also take the biceps in the arms and swivel them back and forth, back and forth. Figure does have a double hinge on the elbow. I wonder what The Rock is doing right now. Probably peeing in a water bottle somewhere. What's that all about? The hands do rotate all the way around. They're a little harder to kind of get in there just because the gauntlet's in the way. The upper torso is going to be on a ball joint. The lower abdomen is also the same. Legs split out. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. You can take them and move them forward. You can move them back. There's a swivel there at the top of the thigh. There's a double hinge on the knee. The one thing, though, that the figure doesn't have is there's no swivel in the boot. The boot looks like, though, yeah, you can't budge it at all. And we've already kind of discussed the big issues when it comes to the figure's ankles. Ratcheted joints are fine and good, but to get them somewhere meeting in between each joint, that's the problem. That's the heartache you're going to be facing. No heartache really facing is the fact the figure does also have toe articulation. That bends fine. If you can get yourself a display stand going, now I'm going to do it right now. I don't want to just hope that I got this guy balanced, start talking away, wrapping up this review like I hoped to do, and have this guy falling forward. I'm going to get him on the display stand. So even then, yeah, he really wants to lean backwards. If it wasn't really for the fact that it's plugged down to the bottom of his heel, he probably would do that. This Black Adam is really the one that's going to be standing in for me. Maybe I might, if I can find it for a cheap enough price, get still the Endless Winter Black Adam, because again, like he's got, I think this has the better face. I think the other one has the better costume, except for the fact that the lightning bolt there's too much of a chunky edge around it. I think this one has the better head, even if I end up picking up the Endless Winter dirt cheap. We're talking like really dirt cheap. Maybe I might see if I can swap the head out on this one with the other Black Adam. All in all, though, it's a good looking figure. And while also, too, that this happened to be the same week that we were looking at these, I'm going to bring back in John Constantine. Constantine more so I looked at because he was using the same body as Jim Gordon. I don't think any body's really been used. Any body has been used for the Black Adam here. I think he's a unique figure that's built only specifically for his own. He is a little cumbersome. Obviously, he's got a lot more armor than maybe some fans of Black Adam would really like to have had. The biggest issue really is not necessarily the fact he has so much armor on his body. It's more so down here. Here and here. Between like the gap space between his foot and the top of his boots. And the fact that he has those ratcheted joints where they have to hit a certain ledge causes conflict when you want this. I would guess say the one that was going to change the hierarchy of the DC films moving forward. But Again, that didn't really work so much for The Rock. He's certainly, though, from a figure standpoint, a better looking Black Adam than we got on the feature film. I didn't feel the need really to add the extra electricity effect on the arm of Black Adam. I think one is more than enough. It gives sort of more of an imposing strength behind the character. He certainly needs the strength in his arms. He certainly doesn't have it, though, in his ankles. The ankles, again, are the one problem I have really with the figure. The sculpt is fine. I don't even mind the fact that he also has the armor on his shoulders and the tattered cape on the back of his body. Ideally, though, I really would have liked it without, but it doesn't bother me that it's there. What really does bother me, though, is the ratcheted in-between areas that ankles have on some of these DC figures. It doesn't always happen with all of them, but the ones that you get. Another one that always really kind of bothered me was the Hush Batman, where that mold, there's always something about that ankle where you can't get it in the spot that you have it. It either leans too far forward or it leans too far back. Black Adam has something similar as well. I don't know still if I'm going to be getting that Endless Winter Black Adam. I think for right now, though, I'm very content to keep this one on the shelf as my go-to Adam. Says now the guy. Well, I'm sure I'm going to be finishing up this review and posting it shortly. Then, of course, McFarlane Toys is going to be announcing, hey, we've got a classic Black Adam. In fact, if you listen very carefully, you might even be able to hear me go, I just opened it. I am still, though, like the look of the figure. I mean, like, the paint on the face is good. It's a little on the muddier side. I like the look of the suit. You know, again, like, the armor isn't bad at all. Yeah, good Black Adam. Just don't release any more, Todd, please. 'Cause then this would be done for nothing. But what do you guys think of Black Adam? Let me know down below in the comments section. Is this a figure that you consider to be your go-to Adam, or do you prefer another one instead? I'm sure there's probably a collector out there that says, no. For my collection space, I like to have Dwayne's Black Adam. He's the predominant figure featured on the front of my shelf, and then all the other figures have to bow before him, because the power of DC hierarchy is about to change. It never really changed at all, Dwayne. You just said that. Every time you enter a film franchise, you always think that you're going to be the one that course corrects it. You did technically do it for the Fast and Furious films. You did somewhat do it lightly for the G.I. Joe, even though, again, you were really only in the second film. I don't think he really changed much in the way of hierarchy in the DC, or films for that matter. I guess maybe he did make Jumanji cool again, but Jumanji was cool anyways when it had Robin Williams. If you guys did enjoy this video, do it a solid now. Come on, throw it a like. You guys want to stick around for more so? I hope so. Hit the subscribe, turn on that bell, do all those things so that you can tell YouTube that yes, you are interested and you want to see more content coming from this channel. Speaking of content coming your way, well then, we have more coming your way, so I hope you guys are going to be coming back and checking out those videos. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.